week 13 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few wide receivers. I have his sleepers this week. The first guy, Greg Dortch of the Arizona Cardinals. So Greg Dortch, the last couple weeks, he's emerged once again for this Cardinal team, where we haven't seen anything from him, where he didn't get ready until week 9, where he really got game action, where he was out for the majority of the season with the injury. Here was Greg Dortch. So Greg Dortch last season, we saw some pop games from him in his rookie season, finishing the year with 467 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And right now, this Arizona Cardinal team, they're playing for the future as well, to see what they have with some of these guys. But the last 2 games for Dortch, he's been very serviceable. Week 11 at Houston, 6 catches, 76 yards. And week 12 versus the Rams, 3 catches, 27 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets. So week 13, obviously a tougher matchup at one of the better defenses in the league at the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Steelers, believe it or not, give up the 13th most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. So Greg Dortch, we know he's a slot guy. We know he has some speed. And last season, like I said, in his rookie season, he did show some flashes, so he's a wide out. I have as a sleeper this week. Next receiver is Devontae Parker of the New England Patriots. So someone's going to have to catch the football, obviously, over there for this New England Patriot team. And Parker last week actually had a mediocre performance, where he had 3 catches, 42 yards on 5 targets. So this week, a decent matchup versus the Chargers that give up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. And we don't know in this game if Demario Douglas is going to play, because he left as well in last week's game at the New York Giants with injury. So if he's not playing in this game, Parker's going to step up. It's pretty much him and Juju Smith-Schuster as the wide receivers left. And Parker, we've seen flash games out of him throughout his career, but obviously this season we really haven't seen much. If you're in deep desperation mode and need a sleeper, Parker's out there in 98% of fantasy leagues. And the 3rd and final wide receiver I have as a sleeper this week here is A.T. Perry of the New Orleans Saints. So Chris Olave possibly could be out in this ball game. Rashid Shaheed most likely out as well. And Michael Thomas, we know he's on injured reserve, and he's not coming back possibly for the remainder of the season. So Perry, he's been active over the last couple weeks. Week 10 in Minnesota, 2 catches, 38 yards and a touchdown. And week 12 at the Atlanta Falcons, in that ball game, a catch, only 7 yards. But this week here, pretty good matchup versus the Lions on paper. Give up the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. And A.T. Perry, he might step into that number 1 role if Olave don't play. But at worst, I think he'll be the number 2 receiver if Olave plays. So on volume and just opportunity, if you need a wide receiver in deeper leagues, he's out there in 95% of fantasy leagues. Here's Perry. And the few wide receivers, I have his sleepers here for week 13 of the fantasy football season.